Christine, thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm here following all these amazing speakers. So it's all about stories today, right? Such amazing stories. And stories are a powerful thing because they can make you laugh, they can make you cry, they can spark revolutions, and they can speak to your very soul. We are all in this room because at some point in our lives, we have either been part of a story or have heard a story that had such a profound impact. It spoke to our inner superhero and prompted us to act and move the universe. 3 stories, all interconnected, all showcasing how consciously living the power of one can be life-changing. My first story starts with a simple school lunch. Show of hands, who here remembers their elementary school lunch? See, me too. I like to use this slide only because this is kind of how I remember it, right? The pizza that was sort of greasy, the hamburger that looked like a hamburger, tasted like a hamburger, but rumor has it, was not, and chocolate milk that you can chug down. In 2011, my daughter, Sophia, started kindergarten. And one of the things I was looking forward to was having lunch with her, because that's what every mom's do. So one day we did just that. And I remember this day because I walked into the office and they said, Mrs. Richey, what did you bring Sophia for lunch today? Now, granted, I have been thinking about this hamburger all week, so I was gonna have that cafeteria food. So I said, I'm gonna have that cafeteria food. And if I could just describe the color of this woman's face when I said that, I don't think I could have gotten the trash can quick enough for her to do what I think she was gonna do. So we were going down the line, and she's getting her green beans and her nuggets and of course, her chocolate milk, and we sit down. So I watch her. She kind of swirls around her green beans, take a bite out of her chicken nugget, and of course, chugs down her chocolate milk. So after lunch, I said, so what did you think? She said, Mama, green beans had no flavor, and the nuggets were meh, but I really loved the chocolate milk. Of course. And this was kind of the same thing I noticed out of the kids around me. About 50% of the food that they had in their tray went in the trash. A few things went through my mind after that lunch. First and foremost, as a chef, if I've never seen green beans that color, okay? And as a chef, everybody, there's some chefs here, they kind of know what I'm talking about. And second, if one of my customers had said to me, Chonnie, the food had no flavor, and it was kind of meh, I would not have served that food. I think more important, as a mom, I couldn't believe that they were serving her food that would fuel her day, put her in the path of academic success, yet they clearly warned me to stay away from it, okay? So that's a couple of things. So after that lunch, I did a couple of research and saw some data when it came to access to fresh food, nutrition education, its overall effect on health. Here's what I found. Really quickly, we'll just go over it. 1 in 3 children in Texas is obese. Millions of food in the trash, and out of that, 60% are vegetables and 40% are fruit. Now, with all the food wasted, we hear stories all the time of what is called food deserts, and this is gonna become really critical later. 23.5 million people live in what is called food deserts. If you don't know what that is, food deserts are communities where access to fresh food is either lacking or non-existent. In Dallas alone, we have 40 communities considered food deserts in Dallas. And why this is important is as we evolve the vision for Independence Gardens, this is gonna become very important. But with all of this daunting information, what I like to call the happy seed, or as my daughters would say, the happy almond, begins to take root, okay? What this is the overwhelming belief that when the youngest and most vulnerable of our citizens is threatened in any way, we are prompted to act. We don't quite know what that would look like or how it's all gonna fall together. What we start believing is when we start believing in the possibilities that we can make a good, better life for them, we become the spark. And when we become the spark, we already started to make a difference. The mission for Independence Gardens seeded that day. The vision for the organization began to take shape. Here's what I knew. What I knew was children couldn't connect with the food they were eating and therefore had no concept of it nutritionally. And as a parent, we've always heard about the importance of testing when it came to measuring student success. Yet we totally disregarded the food that fuels their mind in their body to get them on the path of academic success. How do we do that? There was such a disconnect. So I knew what had to be done, and I started owning the vision. I started owning the vision and vocalizing the actions that needed to happen. And when that happened, the universe started to align. Like-minded, conscious individuals started to believe as I do, owning the vision as their own, so much so that the community started coming together overnight. We had progressive school districts, like the Louisville Independent School District, who represents 53,000 students across 13 municipalities committing to the vision. Home Depot became our build partner, and we have chefs coming out like Chef Otto, Chef Oscar Miranda, helping us with our Come and Eat It campaign. My parents would say that this is General Chonnie marshaling the troops, right? Because there is something I kind of found that needed to be fixed, and I fixed it. But I really like to blame it on my DNA, because I have amazing parents who incorporated service as part of their daily lives. And speaking of my parents, we immigrated from the Philippines when I was 9 years old. And food and fresh food has always been part of our daily lives. And my mom would say that school gardening has always been part of her curriculum, and as a concept isn't a new one. And she's right, as moms often are, she's right. But more important, as a pediatrician, her and her colleagues would say, and studies will corroborate this, that if we could just connect, and it's all about the connection, students with food at a younger age in a program like school gardening in an experiential way, touching and feeling, they're more apt to make healthier food choices as they grow up. Now, we talk about vision all the time, but I want you to visualize this. Visualize a world where an 8-year-old doesn't have to take medication for preventable diseases like type 2 diabetes, obesity, or heart disease. Visualize a world where we have a healthy population only because at a younger age, we taught them how to see food differently and connect with that food. And that is the vision the parent-led team at Independence Gardens saw. They led the charge. My parent-led team is the most amazing team ever, and they are here today. And what they saw was a program, an experiential nutrition education program that is engaging, and any students, regardless of their socioeconomic status, can participate in, and that's really critical for us. In 2013, our first outdoor edible learning space opened up in Louisville, Texas, in our home campus of Independence Elementary. And why that's important is because each, not some, not 10%, not 20, each of the 800 children in that campus got an opportunity to really be little farmers. They connected with their food individually on a one-to-one basis. And it wasn't only just a school garden. We call it an outdoor learning space because we incorporated not only organic practices, but sustainable concepts like wicking beds, square foot gardening, water reclamation, recycling, and composting. Why we did that is a few reasons. The holistic approach to teaching kids to connect with their food does a few things. First, that connection that they have, they're really in there touching and growing that food, they start to value the food. We talked about food waste. They really start to value where their food comes from. if they understand that I am growing this carrot, and I am going to grow it and I'm going to go eat it, versus I am going to grow it or throw it away, that's a difference in thinking. And what we're finding in an experiential approach, like what we did here, the connection happens a lot faster. And this is where the second story out of my 3 continues. In our first school harvest, it was actually this one. In our first school harvest, I was standing around and I watched 2 little boys cleaning the beds. And one said to the other, have you ever seen carrots this color or this big? And the other said, no, I didn't even know carrots grew from the ground. So automatically I'm like, okay, let's have this conversation. All right, so where do you think carrots come from? That's easy. You go to the grocery store, fill your bag up, you go home and you put it in your refrigerator. Oh, okay. And then they said, and did you know that we think there is a fruit growing in that tree? Because in every one of our campuses, we build them an orchard because we really want them to connect with nature. And I said, what do you think is growing on that tree? And they said, we think it's an apple. And they're whispering this to me. And they're like, but that's really weird because we didn't think apple grew on trees. Okay, let's have this conversation. I feel like we're having the conversation of where things come from because we're whispering. And he said, that's easy. You go to the grocery store, you get a bag, you fill your bag, you put it in your cart, and you go home. Okay? If you kind of notice this, I had school administrators, I had Home Depot, had parents listening in on this conversation. And I saw the aha moment in their faces. They got it. Because before that, I was that mom that never left the school, always had something that they wanted to change, right? If there is that mom here, keep doing what you're doing because you're the only people that's going to change everything. So I was that mom. But at that moment, I was that mom that actually knew what she was talking about, right? These kids didn't know where the food came from. So how can we expect them to connect with it, make healthier food choices when they didn't even know how to grow it? That was a really big moment for these parents. And what they also saw was this, because the conversation the children were having were so exciting. And what we found out was the way we approached the program when they were learning actively versus learning passively made a difference. When the kids are learning in an active way, they're really connecting with whatever they're learning. I mean, you cannot argue with that. And so what we found was the parents really liked seeing that and started to engage in the whole conversation, in the whole process, not about school gardening, but about let me get involved with the way you're learning. Because sometimes as parents, we're passive parents when it comes to education. But for things to change, we have to be more active. And when they saw how these kids were learning, the kids were starting to take charge, and they were leading the charge in the way they were seeing their food, and where they led, the kids that loved them, and the parents that loved them followed. So do what you love. Everything we did for Independence Gardens is born out of that love. One of the things that we thought was missing was the connection that we had to what are they going to do when they actually finish growing and harvesting the food. So we came up with a Come and Eat It campaign. The Come and Eat It campaign is a chef-driven program where we have kids cooking alongside chefs. And in the last 3 years, we have had thousands and thousands of children involved in this program. And what's really great about this program is we do it in one day. My team loves me because we do it in one day, 12 campuses, over 1,000 children, 12 chefs, all going in 1 hour in one day. We want to do it that way because we truly believe in this program, and it's such an easy thing for me to see that, but the chefs make it so easy. We are literally in the cafeteria and out of the cafeteria in an hour. And these children here are having a blast every time. You would think that they were making something so amazingly different, right? But they're making a salad. They're making porridge. They're using normal ingredients that they're probably growing in their garden. And that's the whole point of this program. Now, this is where the third story in our journey begins. Last year, after we had a community on Friday, and I get a text from one of my chef friends on Sunday saying, "Hey, Chonnie, I know that we had a really great time on Friday. Kids had a blast. He did it with 100 kids in this one school. I was wondering if we could do this every Friday for all the elementary schools in LISD, beginning next Friday." In my mind, I was thinking, my team is going to kill me. Because there was months and months of planning, and we provided all the resources. So all I said was, okay, well, think about it. I didn't say no, because Christine says I can't say no, right? Didn't say no. But I said, why do we want to do that? He said, well, here's what happened. After they finished putting all the ingredients together, it was time to taste the food. And he noticed this one little boy in kind of the back, wasn't touching his food, just sitting there looking at it while everybody else around him just ate the food. So his chef mind is thinking, I didn't do it right, I didn't teach it right, all of these things happening. So he approached this little boy and said, "So what did you think of the program? Loved it, really excited about it." And he goes, "Okay, great. So why aren't you eating it?" And so his heart was beating because he's like, I don't know what I did wrong. This little boy said, kind of quietly, he's like, "Chef, I'm waiting until everybody leaves because I'm going to ask my teacher for a to-go box because I want to take it home to my mom and dad because we can never afford what we're making here. They will never in their life eat something like this. So if it's okay with you, I'll just take this home and share it with them because I want to tell them what I did today. I want to share with them the experience of today." And all they made was a simple Caesar salad. We started out, Independence Garden started out to address the gap that we thought was missing in nutrition education. But we were doing so much more. What we found was we were building the roots in communities, in schools, for these children and their families to have access to food, basic food. And it's hard for me as a parent to say, you know what, we're just doing it just because we want you to connect with your food, healthy food choices, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But I just refuse to send a child to school hungry. And I just refuse, if I have the resources available in my school, something like a school garden that will feed, and the yield of 800 people farming is huge. If you've ever gardened, is huge, can feed a community. And what we were finding was we were feeding a community. And I want to talk a little bit about Sarah Allen. Sarah is a first grade teacher at Southridge Elementary, and Southridge has 80% Title I children. It's below or at poverty line, and I'm going to say 10 to 15% transient. And what she does, she is also an Independence Gardens board member. She believed so much in the possibilities of making an extraordinary world for her children at Southridge that she became the Spark. She became the Spark and developed a program there that would feed children at her school. Because she owned that possibility and that vision, she led the charge to make it happen. And because she was doing it out of love for those first graders, out of love for the second graders, out of love for every family that comes to her and tells her, we are hungry, Sarah. Because she's doing that, she's making an extraordinary world for her kids. She is actively living her life, not for her, but for the students and for her community. And when she sows that seed of hope, when she cultivates it, when she nourishes it, all of a sudden it sprouts into a movement. And all because she voiced her belief of something better. Now, I kind of want to end it because it's all about the power of one, and I've heard these stories all day today. The power of one is bigger than the individual. It's bigger than the idea. It shows how when we tap into that spark in all of us to consciously live our lives, making ordinary decisions every day, that we make an extraordinary world for those around us. Now, we are all in this room. You are here today because all of you have believed in the capacity of the human spirit, that to act, to thrive, to move mountains. You are here because of that. And you're consciously living it in order to make a commitment for a better world for your communities. And I think at the end of the day, our job and our task is to convince all the unbelievers, because there are a lot of unbelievers out there, to believe in the possible that yes, one person can do it, and yes, we can all make this world better. That they have within themselves the seed that can sprout positive change. Thank you. And that's it. That was my Chonnie Robinson.
That's right. You had to have a point. That's right. That's right. I'm glad you got that, Chonnie. That was on your list.
On my list.
Thank you so much. Wow. What a day, huh? Wow.